Y is recorded in front of a live studio audience.
Stop. Okay, now we're recording. Okay, so you were out walking.
Okay, Bob Seger lives like right around the corner from me.
Okay.
And so over the years, I maybe seen him one other time, but I don't think I have. But Dave, like his son
Was he, when you saw
bowling
him,
you saw him,
was he working on his night moves or was he?
Right.
Okay.
He was working on his night move. We've seen him twice. We've run into him twice at our little walks at the park. And now Rachel, Jamie, and I are going to ask him to join our walking club next time we see him. But
you should.
The first time we saw him, we thought it was him, but we weren't sure. And then yesterday we let Dave crash our walking party, and he had no idea that we had thought we saw him last week. And he, in his not so subtle way, was like, "Hey, right there, it's Bob Seger." And it confirmed because it was the same dude.
Well, as soon as you said Dave was with us, I was like, Dave has no chill. I feel like
he has no chill.
It's gonna ruin this moment.
No, it didn't. It was fine.
Okay, it was still like a rock.
Yeah, because we are keeping far away, so he was far away from us.
Right.
But it was still like a rock. It was still Hollywood Nights all the way.
Right. But do you think he wants to hear that kind of stuff? Does he want people to? He wants to just turn the page, and
he wants to just turn the page.
Thank
and
you.
Be grateful that he's, not having to take a stroll down Main Street. That he can walk through the park.
Right. No, and like he just wants that old time rock and roll, and he's got tonight.
Who needs tomorrow?
Exactly.
This is Why, with your hosts, Heidi Hedquist and Luke Poling.
I was working this morning. What was it? I think it was the "You Are So Beautiful to Me." Joe Cocker, is that right?
Yeah, I hate that song.
Yeah. I was reworking a little bit. You've got a really nice personality.
Nice.
Yeah, thank you.
That's what it says.
Right, exactly.
That's why I hate that song. There are all these love songs that I hate. You know what other one I hate? My Funny Valentine.
Why?
Because
you're my favorite work of art. I got to go through the lyrics real quick here.
Your face may be even another one I don't particularly like.
Is your figure less than Greek? Is your mouth? Are you smart? Okay, not great.
Right? I understand what they're trying to say during these songs. I get the point.
Right.
But first, I realize I have an issue in that I value being pretty over being smart, over being lots of things. I realize that's not great in most situations.
Yeah.
But it's important to me. So
thank God you're not raising children.
Right. Right. But, I feel if someone's going to write me a love song and tell me that you're pretty to me, I mean, nobody else thinks you're pretty, but to me, you're pretty. That's not great. And if someone's going to write me a love song, My Funny Valentine, and basically say the same things, like imagine if you got that in a card, right? Like people set it to music and they think it's lovely. But if your wife gave you a card that said, is your figure less than Greek? Are you smart?
Right.
But, you're my favorite work of art. XOXO, happy Valentine's Day. Just because there's music doesn't mean it's okay.
No, but the only line I have going through my head right now over and over again is Bob Dylan's "I could have done better, but I don't mind." So that's not helping.
It's the same. It's not making it any better. It's like it doesn't work.
I got to think about this. Other songs that could. You must have a list. I mean, I've heard people say "Something Stupid" by Frank and Nancy Sinatra is awful. Lyrically, there's something in it that's
it's Frank and then when it's Frank and Nancy, that's always weird.
Right. Sure.
But yes, much like when Donnie and Marie sing things, but right. But okay, if you think of all the songs that were written about Patty Boyd, I mean, those songs. To have those songs written about you, like those songs make a gal feel good.
No, I mean, but I feel like she's been
Right?
elevated to Helen of Troy levels of stardom. To listen to the art created because of her, she must be, she's starting wars.
Well, right. She's
but
good at
some
something.
version of
I
right.
mean,
Yeah.
she's got talent.
Right. Cherry, do you want to come in here?
That's all you need
Yeah.
to know. Cherry.
Yeah.
What'd you teach her?
Right.
But
interesting.
any of those songs, right? You would feel amazing to have those songs written about.
Sure. Yeah.
So I wouldn't feel me. I mean, the way I look frozen on the screen right now, that is my funny Valentine right now.
Yeah, sure. Whereas I would be thinking,
on my end.
You look wonderful tonight. Now I keep thinking of what other songs now that I'm trying to of that Sinatra era mediocre slight put down lyrics.
Right? There are many. You just got to keep thinking.
Right.
It much like the people that pick the songs that are very inappropriate for wedding songs too.
Well, I told you about this one wedding I was at that the reception DJ was so amazing. I had to keep writing down in order the songs he was playing. Because for years with a group of friends, we've had a joke that we want somebody to get married to. I'm still haven't found what I'm looking for.
Right.
But this DJ in the cocktail hour, literally, it was To Make You Feel My Love, the Adele version of the Bob Dylan song, which I am 100% convinced is about stalking, and I will fight anybody to go differently. He followed that one up with I'll Be Watching You. I believe I Would Do Anything for Love, but I won't do that. Someone That I Used to Know. And then Someone Like You by Adele. Which one is like but we were sitting there and I was like, I need to start writing these down. This is unbelievable. How did you get started in beekeeping? What made you want to keep bees? Was seeing them just out in nature not enough? You needed to have them?
My neighbor down the street had them, and I said, hey, Brian, let me come see what it's like. And I was petrified. I mean, literally, I was because no one wants to get stung. And here I am in a bee suit around maybe 300, 400,000 bees, because he has a bunch of hives, and there's between 50 and 80,000 bees per hive. But it's so different than what I do day in and day out. The first time I was in a suit, I'm like, this is awesome. I'm going to get my own hive.
What was it about the suit? I
got in a suit and I felt, I looked like the Michelin Man, but I felt invincible. Like, all right, I'm not going to get stung. And I got stories 12 years later. I got stung a lot.
Yeah.
But that first day in his apiary, it was pretty darn cool. Enough that I said, this is awesome. I want to do this. Because you got to be calm and relaxed, and you're around so many stinging creatures. It was a great experience.
My recollection of when this all started was we were neighbors, and we get a knock at the door one day, and his beautiful daughter, she was probably 8 at the time, was standing on our doorstep with this beautiful Martha Stewart basket full of honey, right? And she looks up and she says, would you like to buy some honey from me? And I said, oh, of course, sweetheart. So we bought the honey. And, I had never been a honey fan, ever. I thought it was disgusting, really, because my only experience of honey was McDonald's honey packets, right? So anyway, so I toasted up a muffin and put some butter on it, and made one for my husband and myself. And I had never in my life experienced anything so amazingly delicious. It was incredible. And I said, wow, I didn't know. You don't know what you don't know, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So there you go, Luke. You're not a honey lover, but maybe that'll change.
Right. I'm.
Wait, you're not?
I'm not. No,
it was confessions before you got on, Heidi.
Yeah, we've gone.
Missed everything.
No, Paul and I got deep before everyone showed up.
Clearly.
No, I just never been a honey. But how much honey do you? How many bees do you have, and how much honey does that yield on a regular basis?
So the way we categorize it is how many hives do you have? And a hive is, for most of us, it's a vertical structure where there's a series of boxes stacked on top of one another. Most hives have one queen in it, and that one hive will have anywhere from maybe 30,000 bees in the spring till a peak of maybe 80,000 in the summer. And we started out with 2 beehives, and today we run 15. So we're still considered very small from a beekeeping perspective. We're not commercial beekeepers. We're still in the hobby farm category, but that produced for us about 1,800 pounds of honey. So if you figure there's about 55 pounds of honey in a 5-gallon bucket, we have, you get quite a bit of honey.
So what does one do with all that honey?
That's a lot of muffins.
Well, we still share a lot. We give some away for sure. We have a hobby farm, so people come over and they buy honey from us. We also make switchel, which is a phenomenal drink. If you've never had it, as just a few key ingredients. It has honey, ground up ginger, apple cider vinegar, and water. And most people that drink it think it tastes like lemonade, and it is wonderful. And it's, think of all the ingredients. It's healthy for you. And then we also make wine. Honey wine is called mead.
Yes.
So you can add fruit like apples or oranges or ginger, strawberry, raspberry, and it's wonderful. It's more of the white wine family, but it's delicious.
Luke, I feel like you'd love mead. Like, it's very Henry VIII to drink mead.
See, I was listening to this lemonade-esque cocktail and thinking, you throw a little Jack Daniels, like a whiskey on top of that, a little scotch, and then
rum.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Jameson's or vodka. You can go either way.
Oh, okay, sure. Keep it light.
Jameson's for sure. Yeah. So, we drink so much of it. We have a 5-gallon bucket of honey.
Can't stand up. No, honey you're saying, not the...
Hey, Costco's got the gallon jugs of the...
Well, we do. We have a gallon of switchel in our refrigerator at all times. And we just constantly replenish it. And it's incredibly refreshing. It's
highly beneficial.
Highly beneficial. Oh my gosh.
When you hear stuff everyone's saying about the benefits of honey, and especially locally raised honey, that for even allergies, it can help you because of what the bees are bringing. Do you have to feed them? Do you have to bathe them? What do you do with 80,000 bees?
The queen needs a lot of attention, like most queens. No, no, we run a pretty clean operation, very clean. In fact, what I mean by that is we don't use antibiotics or steroids. We don't store our supers when they're not on the hive. A lot of beekeepers will put them in like acrylic acid, and they say it's natural. So is arsenic. But no, we don't use any chemicals. We don't feed our bees. And if we do feed the bees, what we do is we take the capping. So when we extract the honey from the frames, we take the wax cappings, and the wax comes off and opens up the cells to release the honey. But honey sticks to those things, the cappings. So what we do is we take them and we put them in a bucket. And around March, when the bees are starting to increase their production, make more babies, we will take those cappings, which is their honey, and put it right back in the hive, and they will clean it up and use it. We do not use processed sugar. We do not use any chemical feeds, none of that stuff whatsoever. And if they die over the winter, which most do for us, so be it. We get new bees in the spring, but we don't use any chemicals, steroids, or hormones.
Wow.
Now, when you're starting out, when you've got your starter hive, do you just need the queen? Do you need a queen and a few buddies? How does that, what's your basic to get everything started?
The basic starter kit is called a package, and there's roughly 3 pounds of bees. So imagine a shoebox. That shoebox is full of bees. And in that shoebox full of bees will be a queen. And you basically empty the bees into your beehive and put the queen in there. And there's a box, it's got a little candy in it, and the bees will eat their way in to release the queen. But that's how a hive starts. And most commercial bees are brought in from either Georgia or California. So some years we buy a little of each, but we've had the most success with the California bees. So they literally fill semis full of these boxes and ship them across the country.
How can you tell where they're from? Is it the accent or?
Yeah, there's all different types. There's Italians, there's Cornelians. So yeah, there's different types of bees. But anyway, that's where they come from in the United States for most of the bees.
So what was that like the first time you took that shoebox and emptied it into the hive? Did you get stung then?
No, in fact, I didn't get stung until I think my 5th or 6th year. And after that, the wheels came off.
I bet.
12 times this year alone.
They're like, "Ooh, this is fun."
It was not fun. And if you get stung 12 times, yeah, it's 12 of those.
Oh. The first time I went out with him, I had a jacket on and a hat, of course. And but I was just wearing my blue jeans and wasn't really paying attention. And I was holding a box and I set it against my thigh where there was a bee there and I got stung and I handed him back. I said, "I'm done," and I left him.
Good luck. I would have done the same thing.
There's hundreds of thousands of bees in the air and she walks away.
I did.
And I'm by myself.
Well, that's love.
Yeah. How often do you have to tend to them?
So it takes a couple days in the spring when you put the queen and the bees in the hive. There's no guarantee they're going to stay. Okay. Most of the time the bees stay, but you want to go back. If you do it on, a Saturday, you might want to go back a week later and make sure that the queen is released and that they're getting the hive fixed up. Maybe a week later to make sure that she's laying eggs. What we do is we do 2 harvests a year. It depends on the weather, but we will spend considerable time at generally the end of June, and we will harvest what we call the spring honey. And we label it as such because people with spring allergies use it because there's microscopic bits of pollen from our local fauna in that honey. One of the things that we don't do is we keep it raw. So we do filter it through like a 200 or 400 micron filter, but we don't heat it to 160 degrees and press it through felt like commercial beekeepers will, so it has a long shelf life. Our stuff will stay as long as anybody else's, but it crystallizes, and that's a good thing. Okay? So it means that the good stuff is in there. So we will harvest at the end of June generally, and 45 to 60 days later, come like the end of August, we will harvest again. And that's where we pick up the fall pollens like goldenrod and some of the ragweeds. And that's our second harvest. So in the beginning of the year, it takes just maybe a day to set the bees up. We do 2 harvests, which take considerable time. And then in the fall, like right now, as I'm going to be taking this weekend, since it's a beautiful weekend, we're going to take all the empty boxes off and I bring them inside the barn. And we put little insulating blankets on top to absorb the moisture, because inside the beehive, it's over 90 degrees in the winter. And if you're at 0 degrees outside, 90 degrees inside, you can get condensation. And without proper ventilation, it can drown the bees. But for me, part of the fun of beekeeping is in the winter, we will take the hives, we will scrape all the propolis out. You take propolis and mix it with an alcohol, and you have a medicinal tincture. And we will sand the hives and paint the hives so they look good, because part of the fun is having a nice looking apiary. And our colors are black and orange, like they're black and yellow like beehives.
Well, part of the hives that we're not using, those are the box, because there's a core. I don't think they understand. You're making it sound like you're taking the hives and sanding them while there's bees in there.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask, but you said you take the empty boxes and clean them out. So is that after the bees have left or died?
Sorry. Let's maybe just take a second and go through the construct of a hive.
Please.
Most hives all hives have 2 large, generally speaking, they're called large or deep boxes. And that is the brood chamber. There's 10 frames in each. So if you have 2 deep boxes, you've got 20 frames and the queen lays her eggs in there. And in the winter, she has that stuff packed full of honey. The other boxes on top are what they will put the honey in that we will actually steal from them. Okay. Those are called the honey supers. So after we've taken the honey out, there is enough honey left in the brood chambers for the bees to eat and live all winter. But we take those empty honey supers inside, clean them up, get rid of old frames, again, scrape the propolis off of them, which is a great ingredient. It's antimicrobial, it's an antibiotic. They use it to sterilize the inside of the hive and seal up any cracks. But we can use it because we can make tincture out of it. So
now, all the bees go down to this lower level where they can hang out and kind of hibernate for the winter. Does the queen, is she down with them, or is she in a separate section? Do you know which one's the queen when you're looking through the hive?
You have to look for her. She's about 50% bigger than any other bee in there.
Okay.
The best way to say they don't hibernate, but think of the penguins. The penguins are a ball in the middle of the Antarctic, for example, and they rotate. The penguins on the outside are the ones that are getting really cold, and they rotate through. But what the bees do is they get in a cluster around the queen, and they vibrate their wings to generate heat. They keep her warm. They feed her. And what she does is she continues to lay eggs, albeit much slower. She's not at the 2,000 eggs a day like she will in the peak of summer, but she still needs to keep that hive alive. And the queen doesn't feed herself. I mean, the bees do all the work for her, but it's a ball of bees that moves up and down the hive, following the honey all winter long.
That's fascinating.
Because the bees only have a short span.
Yeah, winter bees can live, 4 or 5 months. I think that's how long they can live. Most bees will live about 36 days in the summer. Live just over a month.
Do they leave the hive to shrug off this mortal coil, or are you picking dead bees out of stuff?
Generally speaking, a healthy hive, when it gets in the 40s, they will do a cleansing flight. They leave and to cleanse their bodies. And it's pretty cool. If you have a nice fresh snow on the ground, you will see hundreds of little yellow bombs where they have they've taken care of business.
Wow.
Yeah, in the spring, I mean, bees die all winter long. They die all year long, and the bees literally drag them out of the hive.
Do you need to restock the bees every season, or you've got that beginner pack that you started with and that queen, and she's good, and there's enough by the end of every season? The turnover is so good that you're never stuck with an empty apartment, let's say.
No, it's a great point, and that's a great analogy of an empty apartment, because by far and away, and maybe it's the way I manage the bees, we lose the vast majority of our bees. And they, quite often, it's an empty apartment. And to me, that's
you should try subletting and see if that works.
Yeah, really. You know what, though? The mice come in and the hive beetles come in. That's what happens.
Yeah, if they break their lease. Okay, sorry.
No, but what happens is if a bee goes out and gets poisoned, like there's a whole class of these pesticides, neonics or neonicotinoids, that kill the bees. Well, bees are pretty intelligent. If they go out, it's in Roundup, for example. If bees go out and they get poisoned and they don't feel good, they're not going to bring that poison back to the hive. So quite often, if these bees get poisoned, they leave the hive and don't come back. They die. Okay, so I have had empty apartments, to use, your analogy.
Thank you.
Sometimes the queen will just die and they don't have a chance to make a new queen. But I think it's we've got the varroa mites, which have a life cycle that's faster than the bees, so they can reproduce and wipe out a hive. And because we don't believe in the use of chemicals, I'm willing to sustain that loss.
Right.
Yeah.
If we can get a couple years where a queen can sustain life in the winter, we want to propagate those genetics, and we'll do everything we can to make sure she's good, and we'll split the hive. There's a lot of things we can do, but we do our best to keep them alive without the use of chemicals.
Is there a competition between you and your friends down the street that introduced you to this, as far as who's got the better hive and my queen's better than your queen and our honey is better than your honey?
You know what? It is. It's a friendly competition because it started with 2 of us and now there's 10 of us. So we want everyone to do it. Yeah. So I'm telling Luke in the beginning, yeah, dude, you got to get into it. So yes, we want to bring people into the fold because it's a lifestyle. You know, you're not doing this to get rich. You're not gonna you won't.
You don't make
it's
money.
a lifestyle. So we enjoy it. But what we'll do is we will say, all right, who had the most honey? Who had the most per hive? Who had the most if you're a female? You know what I mean? Just all these fun things. The new beehives, just we make it fun.
That's awesome.
The real competition is in the mead.
Oh, for sure. I would imagine.
Yeah.
I was going to say swimsuit section, but okay, mead. Sure, that works too.
No, my friends have taken mead making to the next level. Like they're entering their stuff into contests and getting, silver medals for it. It's worldwide. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I mean, we call it a celebration. So we'll do 2 harvests a year and we'll have 30 to 70 people. It's an open invite. Yeah. Bring a dish to pass. We'll have a pulled pork, or we've had smoked turkey, we've had rabbit, we've had venison, elk. It's fun. Play volleyball, swim, have a great time, make it a party.
Yeah, people come because they want to see the process and they come and they work. I mean, it's very laborious. It really is. But it always reminds me of the Tom Sawyer thing. Hey, you want to paint my fence?
Right.
Totally. Get over here.
Whatever it takes.
Hopefully.
Until they get stung in the fingers. It's like, damn it, why am I here?
Well, that's what the mead's for. Or the tincture. Just pick one.
That's true.
Yeah.
How do you, I mean, you said you sell some of your honey and you give it away. Are you ever just get tired of having, or is it a lot of cooking things going like, oh, what if we threw some honey in here? And how has that changed your diet or what you're eating or what you're trying to put honey in?
It's you might have a different opinion, but I think it's more of the lifestyle. So we started with honey 12 years ago. And, we said, hey, it'd be fun to get chickens. So we got chickens. Then for a while we had turkeys. And I already shared with you that we had pigs and now we have sheep. And,
right. We define fun differently. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
It's just about the celebration. So this year, one of the things that we did was raspberries. We put in a raspberry patch a couple years ago, but we had more raspberries than we've ever had. We did, I would say it's fair to say, several gallons of raspberry jam. And then we pulled more than 800 head of garlic out and built a drying rack. And we had a garlic party. And yes, somebody brought garlic cookies and they were some of the best things I've ever eaten. So, I mean, we're always doing something like that. And I just think that's more of the lifestyle we want. And we do cook with honey. Switchel was a big game changer for us. We've tried jellies and jams with honey, but I think it's more, at least from my perspective, everything that we're putting in the ground, we know that where it came from, and there's no chemicals, no steroids, no hormones. Our sheep are free range, our chickens are free range. And, when you go out there, it's like Easter, you get 15, 18 big fat eggs every day. It feels pretty good.
It's a feeling of such incredible wealth in the regard of, the land truly is feeding your family. And it's undescribable, really, or indescribable.
We put in an apple orchard. We have pear trees.
We made
peaches.
Applesauce, apple cider,
hard cider.
I mean, it's amazing. Like, it's all so fantastic, but it's all a lot of work, as you've mentioned. How do you manage to keep up with your passion while having to deal with the rest of things that life deals with you, with other jobs and things of that nature? Because it's a lot.
Well, I think one of the things that is we don't have a TV in our bedroom. So many people of my friends even will say, oh, we got done at dinner, we went and sat and watched TV. If there's daylight, we're doing some cool stuff.
That's awesome.
So we don't watch a lot of TV.
Like you're saying about as a lifestyle, as a way to go about it, knowing where so much of your food is coming from, and you have that just sort of personal, listen, I fold the laundry and get it put away. I feel like I have, yeah, I paint a bathroom. I feel like Bob Vila. So I can only imagine like actually running a farm is the satisfaction that must come when you're sitting down to dinner and your virtual cornucopia of food is all you can point to where it came from. And it is, 20 paces from where you're sitting. That seems like a very good way to go.
Yeah, it's fun.
It's kind of a ball and chain in the summertime though, because there's always food to harvest, always.
Right.
And because the guilt for me, at least, like he was saying about the raspberries, there was such a bountiful harvest this year that you felt compelled every day, to go out there and pick as much as you can. And if you missed a day, then the guilt, like if you saw anything rotting on the vine, it just, because we're so thankful that God provided all this food for us. And you just never want to see it go to waste. Did you mention that we also do our own maple syrup?
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maple syrup or a maple grove, and that we don't sell anything other than the honey, really.
Yeah, it's too much work. That's the real liquid gold, because we have silver maple trees. It's about 60-1, the ratio of sap to syrup. So we would literally fill up a stainless steel container to hold 60 gallons and all that for a gallon of syrup. It takes 8 hours to boil that stuff down.
It's cool. I mean, it's so good. And in fact, he wasn't even in town this year to tap the maple trees. And so
you did it.
I did. I went out there and I Googled how. I mean, I'd seen him do it, and I'm always with him, but I wanted to make sure I tapped the trees correctly, and I did it. It was good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And there's nothing better than maple moonshine. I'm just putting it out there.
I wasn't focused on pancakes, but maple moonshine sounds pretty awesome too.
There's the legend that I believe it's from Jerry Maguire, that bees and dogs can smell fear. Is that true? Can bees tell if you're panicking?
Tell them my dad's stuff.
And how do you hide that?
So I think so, and I think that's a fair question. So several years ago, her dad comes out to the beehive, and he is, I'm not exaggerating, 80 yards away. And I'm like, George, and I am 10 feet from the hive. I'm like, they're not going to sting you. We're going to stand next to them, not in front of them. You'll be fine. All of a sudden, I hear a few expletives, and he is running. Here's an 80-year-old man running to the house. I got stung. They're after me.
Oh, that would be me.
For more information, you can check out the Violassi Family Farm on Facebook, where they are at facebook.com/Violassi Family Farm.
You can follow us on all the various socials. Our website is whythepodcast.com and has all sorts of additional stories and videos. It's also where you can sign up for our newsletter. We're also on YouTube, if you're into that kind of thing. And don't forget to leave us a review on iTunes, because if you don't, we'll call your mother and tell her that she's completely right. You would look so much prettier if you smiled more.
Why the Podcast is part of Mudhouse Media. Today's show was produced by myself and Heidi Hegquist. Our reluctant executive producers are John Sauvé and Sandy Stone. Our willing executive producers are Rachel Allen and Randy Jeanette. Our graphic designer is Samantha Mustonen. The theme song was performed by the Electrosynth-O-Magnetic Polyphonic Orchestra. This one's for Philippe. Thanks for joining us. Flash, we're coming home.
Nigel, is that you? Are you here, Nigel?